The Giant, a wonderful remaster of the classic The Reese, where we can wander around the good old map with a beautiful new aesthetic to it, making it all the more better to play. But how safe are we whilst we're playing this map? That's exactly what we need to find out today. Welcome to the Safety Check. The Giant, the lovely map itself. God, this thing is beautiful. It's an absolutely stunning. But we're not here to talk about how stunning it is. We're here to talk about how safe it is. And the first thing I want to mention is the hygiene of this map. Outside, it doesn't look too bad, you know? But we can start wandering inside and we start noticing some odd bits like blood here, which goes further into the map. Big piles of it as well. And you look at rooms like this. Does this really look hygienic to you? Does this really look hygienic? It definitely does not to me. There's definitely too much blood around on the floor, which is never a good sign for hygiene at all. And there's just so much of it around. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have to class hygiene as a risk, and it is going to get a 70 out of 100. The next one I want to talk about is the tripping hazards. It seems that every single one of these maps has tripping hazards. Whether it's these big old cables connecting to the machine that are everywhere along the floor. I mean, I could definitely fall over one of those and into that boiling hot water, which wouldn't be good. And on top of that, there's sandbags all over the floor. There's roofing all over the floor. There's debris and wood all over the floor. There's plenty of tripping hazards all over this map, like literally everywhere. You cannot escape it no matter where you're going. Look, you can just see it everywhere, tripping hazards. So yeah, we're definitely going to have to put tripping hazards down, and this is also going to get a 70 out of 100. Now the third low tier risk is actually going to be the weather. As we can see, there is a lot of snow falling down on us, and it's slowly starting to pile up everywhere as well. So it is very cold out, clearly. And what could happen if we got stuck in the snow whilst we're fighting these zombies? We could get really cold. We could potentially get frostbite. And if you want to escape it, I mean, no good doing that because there's no roof. So you can't even come inside and warm up. So yes, the cold is a killer. And for that reason, weather elements is going to get a 60 out of 100. Another low tier risk that we have is low tier burns. Now we're talking about little barrels like this. You know, slightly out of reach, but could still cause an issue. He says, as he sees one right here, that you can definitely reach. Now, of course, I know there are bigger fires, but we are not talking about those right now. We are just talking about the smaller ones that could be a risk. So that being said, low tier burns is definitely a risk, and it is going to get a 70 out of 100. Now we have one more low tier risk for this map, and it's actually going to be shrapnel. As you can see up here, there is a shed ton of broken glass just on the floor everywhere, like literally everywhere. Shards of glass that you could stand in or fall in and cut yourself, or you could just generally hurt yourself on all this glass that's broken off from the windows. And of course, this isn't going to be the only place, because as we've just mentioned, the roof for this building has completely broken in on itself. And what was the roof made out of? You guessed it, glass. It is everywhere. So it is going to be a risk, and it is going to get a 70 out of 100. So with that said and done, we can move on to our medium tier risks. And the first one is exactly what I'm looking at right now. Electricity. Now we have these 4 portals everywhere, and they are covered in electricity that is just open to the elements. What if it started raining, huh? On top of that, they have all these massive generators just sparking up like crazy, and the only thing covering them is a metal fence. Yeah, sure, that seems great. And that's not the only one around the map. I mean, you can see sparking coming off the wires there, alive. And look at this one. I mean, Jesus Christ, look at the state of this. That does not look safe. I mean, I had to pull that up to turn the power on, and look at it sparking at me. That could have electrocuted me on the spot. Look at all the electricity coming off this, with the generators that are right here for me to touch. That is not safe. So it is going to be a very low rating for this, and it is going to get a 30 out of 100. Now, the next one's not as bad as electricity, but it still is a risk that I have to mention, and it is falling. Now, like I said, there's not many places you can fall on this map. I mean, you can fall going down the stairs here, which isn't terrible, sure. But then there are also elements where you can fall down like here, that you could definitely hurt something on. And of course, there's a big hole in the floor here that you can fall through. If you're not paying attention, that could be some twisted ankles. And last but not least, of course, we can jump off of this railway or straight out the window, which is probably our highest point, I imagine. Still not great. So it's not as dangerous as some of the falling areas we've seen before in previous maps, but it is still going to get a 60 out of 100. Next up on the list, though, is something we've mentioned, but a lot bigger. It's the high tier burns. Now, as we can see, there's a lot of the building on fire everywhere, and this continues inside as well. When I say inside everywhere, it is literally everywhere. I mean, look at the state of that building over there, and look, right above us here is literally all on fire. What's stopping all that wood from catching a light and then falling down on us? And again, plenty of fire there, and like we've mentioned, plenty more fire in other places as well. So this is quite a big one, and it is going to get a 30 out of 100. Now, the next medium tier risk I want to mention is the machinery on the map. Now, I'm talking about stuff like this machinery here that is cooking up some hot water. That could be dangerous. Alongside these generator style things that are next to all the teleports. These also are dangerous. Not only could they electrocute you, but you know, you could definitely get your hands or arms or heads or anything stuck in here. And before you know it, look, you're mincemeat. So little things like these can't be ignored. And for that reason, it's going to get a 50 out of 100. Our next medium tier risk, we have to go to the labs because it is chemical hazards. Now, we all know they were doing experiments here, and they've just left them all out in the open, which is not great to start with, especially when the place is completely broken down. But there are also a shed ton of barrels just left everywhere in the open that could cause a massive risk to us. And of course, they have not labeled these up, so it could be even more of a risk if we were to get near them. And like I said, they are literally everywhere, like there. They are everywhere, man. And I mean, look at this room. How many barrels do you need? How many chemicals are we shilling around here? So yeah, chemical hazards is definitely going to be a risk, and it is going to get a 40 out of 100. Now we have one final medium tier risk, and it is the building stability. Now, overall, structurally, they look pretty decent, apart from the fact that they're on fire. But there are still some issues, like big gaps in windows or walls, which you could obviously fall down. And of course, I do have to mention buildings because there are issues with the interior structure, like this wall here is broken. The floor, or the roof, shall I say, here is broken. There's definitely elements where this area is not in good condition, and the structural integrity of these buildings might be at risk. So it's not going to get the lowest score ever, but it is still going to get a 50 out of 100. So we can now move on to the high tier risks, and the first one I want to talk about does actually relate to all the barrels on the map, because they could be at risk of exploding. There are chemicals within these barrels, then, you know, all it takes is a stray bullet before something goes bang. And like I previously mentioned, there's a lot of electricity that's just open to the elements. So if this starts raining, it could all explode on us. And if we're near that when that happens, that's not going to be good. So explosions is going to be jotted down for a risk of this map, and it is going to get a 20 out of 100. Now we do have one final high tier risk, and it is going to be drowning. There are a couple of areas we can drown on this map, and they have to do with these tanks over here. Not only does this look like it's boiling hot water, but it looks like it's quite deep as well. Now luckily it is kind of sectioned off, but there's nothing really stopping me from climbing over this, you know, and jumping in there. So there is the potential to drown on this map, and even though they have tried to cover it with some railings, it's not good enough for my liking because it's still too easily accessible. So drowning is going to get a 20 out of 100. So that is the high tier risks done, and now we move on to the miscellaneous tier risks. And the first one I want to talk about are the teleport. Now on the outside they look very dangerous, completely covered in electricity, no panels covering them or protecting us, but obviously we can go inside the teleports, and it just first it electrocutes us and then it teleports us through somehow, which in my opinion could be very dangerous. What is stopping us from ending up somewhere we're not meant to, or electrocuting us on impact? It's too much of a risk for my liking, so it is going to get a 50 out of 100. Now the last risk for us and for the miscellaneous tier risk is actually something a bit different. It relates to the steam pipes around the map. Now if you go into certain areas like here, you'll notice that there's a few pipes that are just completely leaking out steam. Like here, for example, that is clearly not sealed properly, and this is around a couple of areas. Like here, for example, more steam coming out of the pipes, and steam is obviously very hot and could burn us, and I could just walk under this and burn myself. So it's definitely a risk. And with that being said, it is going to get a 40 out of 100. Now, it is not all doom and gloom for this map, as there are a couple of safety features this time around. First things first, we do have some railings around the map, like these ones here, which is obviously good because they are safety features. But unfortunately, I cannot give it a very high score this time, because whilst we do have these lovely railings put in place, there are too many holes in the railings themselves, like here that I could fall down, or here that and whilst they are trying, unfortunately, with gaps in the railings like these as well, you just can't give it too high of a rating. So it is going to get a +1 for railing. On the other hand, we do also have safety signs that I have spotted around the map. For example, there's a warning sign here saying that there's dangerous dogs. I don't see any dogs, but it's good to know. There's also signs warning us about the electricity, which I appreciate, but it's kind of obvious. But still appreciate the fact that they are trying. And even on some of the panels here, they have safety signs. And of course, they do have some on the massive section here as well, which is good. So safety signs is definitely good here. And we are going to give it a +3. But with that being said, that is all the risks and safety features concluded for this map. Now, just to reiterate, we have Hygiene with a rating of 70, Tripping Hazards with a rating of 70, Weather Element with a rating of 60, Low-Tip Burns with a rating of 70, Shrapnel with a rating of 70, Electrocution with a low rating of 30, Falling with a rating of 60, High-Grade Burns with a rating of 30, Machinery with a rating of 50, Chemical Hazards with a rating of 40, Building Stability with a rating of 50, Explosions with a rating of 20, Drowning with a rating of 20, Teleports with a rating of 50, and Steam Pipes with a rating of 40. Now, when you put all of these scores together, you actually get an overall rating of 48 out of 100. But we did have over risks on the map, which does give it a -5. But to add to that, we also did get a +3 for safety signs and a +1 for railing. So we do get +4 as well. So with that said and done, and you combine all of the scores together, the Giant actually gets an overall rating of 47 out of 100. Whilst not ideal, it is better than the recent maps we have been ranking. And this shows on the tier list itself, as the Giant actually goes just above the Tomb. Now, Liberty Falls did also get a 47, but I feel like Liberty Falls was slightly safer. I might be wrong, but we're just going to put them level for now. But with that said and done, that is the end of the Giant safety check. Now, next up on the list is Shadows of Evil. And I have a feeling it's not going to be as safe as the Giant. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Is Shadows of Evil going to be safer than the Giant, or will it be more dangerous for us? With that said and done, I hope you have enjoyed today's video. A massive thank you to the members of the channel. The extra support is always greatly appreciated. If you have enjoyed, then I'd really appreciate it if you left a like and subscribe for more content. But until the next one, I hope you all stay safe.